You're listening to The Common Constitutionalist, broadcast from an undisclosed location, free from the prying eyes of establishment black helicopters.
Welcome back. This is The Common Constitutionalist, The Common Constitutionalist podcast, coming from you from New England, where the sun shines, but spring just doesn't want to come out and play. I don't know what the problem is, but I'm not liking it much. When the high is 50 degrees and the low is in the 30s, and you still get frost on your car in the morning, and it's almost May, there's a serious problem. I need global warming, and I need it now. Hear that, Al Gore? All right, I wrote an article, published it this morning, entitled "Seething Anger Over ISIS." I heard this actually on Glenn Beck, I think it was Friday morning, something like that. And I had heard it before, but I hadn't really followed it, and it just really set me off. So honestly, I'm going to try and recap this thing from the article and vent a little bit, and I'm going to try and keep my cool. I've prided myself on my articles and podcasts being rated G for the most part, maybe PG at best, and that's it. But this gets me so angry that I'm not sure I can even get through this portion of the podcast without going off completely with rated R expletive rants. So I'm going to, if I feel the need, I'm just going to stop and move on to the next topic, because this thing's just ticking me off to no end. Well, it seems the sex slave trade is alive and well in the ISIS community, and it's so abhorrent. You couldn't write fiction this bad, to be honest with you. Last October, November, ISIS released a document with a price list for sex slaves, and the price list includes women up to 50 and girls down to the age of 1 year old. I don't even want to imagine what the ISIS... I'm just going to leave it at thugs, because otherwise I'll say something I regret. What the ISIS thugs, what these jagos, I'm already starting to lose it on this. But at any rate, what these ISIS guys, I can't imagine in my wildest nightmares what's happening over there to these poor little infants and toddlers that, I hate to say it, but I think, frankly, they'd be better off dead than have to live through this, the suffering that they're if they don't die from this ordeal, the suffering that they're going to that ISIS is inflicting upon them day after day until to what end I don't know. But how this came about, how this price list came about, is I guess that there have been auctions, sex slave auctions for the Yazidis and Christian captors, where they'll go into a village, they'll wipe out all the men or force them to convert to Islam. If they refuse to convert, then they just slaughter all the guys and the boys, to be honest with you. And then that leaves just the women and the girls, again, all the way down to infancy. And they shackle them up and they march them to there's 2 auction houses, so to speak. It just pains me to talk about this, but everybody's got to know about this because something's got to be done. At any rate, there's 2 auction houses, one in their capital of Raqqa, Syria, and one in Mosul, Iraq. And they march these women and girls to the auction. They're shackled, hands and feet together, like slaves, like you see in slave movies of old. They're covered from head to toe with veils, hijab, the whole deal. These poor women and girls are crying. They're wailing. They just, I don't know that if they know what they're in for or not. or whether they're just, I don't know. I couldn't even imagine getting into the mind of one of these girls or women, either not knowing or worse, maybe knowing what's in store for them after they're auctioned off and sold to these dirtbag pieces of crap who all need to die. Here I go. Okay, take a breath. Take a freaking breath, baby. But apparently what has been happening over the few years or whatever that ISIS has come into power, is that these women were auctioned off for whatever the market would bear for what they call merchandise. They don't even consider them women. They don't consider them anything, but they classify them as merchandise, spoils of war. That's the way they classify these poor women and girls. And they're auctioned off for whatever the market would bear. And apparently the ISIS Department of Commerce, they have their own commerce department in ISIS, and they decided that they weren't getting enough money for these for the auction, through the auctions, sale of auctions, and so they decided to make a price list and have price fixing or price controls. So they have a published price list of, if you want a 40-year-old woman, you pay X, and if you want a 9-year-old girl, you pay X times whatever. It's a scaled thing. And the younger the girl, the more you have to pay for them. All right. I explained in the article that certainly recently, I've always kind of been this way, but certainly recently, I've been more in the libertarian-leaning ilk rather than the neocon type of thing, where we spread freedom throughout the land everywhere in the world, and we're the world's police department. I don't think that that's right. It's not constitutional. It's not the way the founders envisioned this nation. We need a national interest, an urgent interest to get involved in overseas conflicts, overseas entanglements. We should protect the homeland. We should protect the citizens of the United States. Whether they're here or abroad, they need to be protected because they are citizens. And beyond that, we leave everybody the crap alone. It's not our problem. This, however, transcends any national interest that this country has. These poor women, they need help. They need help bad. And what's happening to them is worse than anything I've ever heard, frankly. It's worse than the beheadings. It's worse than the mass killings. It's worse than the executions. Because, frankly, when after you're beheaded, you head off to where you're going to head off to, good, bad, or indifferent, you head to eternity, basically, whatever you believe. I'm not going to get into my particular beliefs on this matter. It's not prevalent to this. But when it's over, it's over. Sure, it's gruesome. It shouldn't be happening. These guys deserve a shot. Someone deserves to go get them. I understand that we've tried in the past, and our intelligence has been crappy. The military has done everything that they've been asked to do, and the intelligence community and this administration has dropped the ball on virtually every occasion. But again, that's a story for another day. But these women, the immoral treatment, the ungodly treatment that these women are being subject to, being subjugated by these rat bastards over at ISIS, is beyond any political or national interest. And I basically said that, I don't know. I just don't. I'm so beside myself about this topic, I can't hardly see straight, as I said in my article. We've got a great country. We've got a powerful, what used to be a superpower. I guess we're kind of a quasi-superpower under the Obama administration and shrinking fast. But we sure as crap have the wherewithal to go over there, wipe these sons of guns out completely, and rescue these women. And frankly, if we dropped a couple of bombs on the auction site, I'd be willing to bet that these women would be thankful to go to heaven rather than be subjugated by these a-holes. But that's I just, like I said, I'm trying to keep my cool about this. I'm trying to stay rational about this, but this is a subject beyond rationale, and this is just they just keep ramping up the immorality. They keep ramping up the violence, and there's nothing that they can't do to these Christians. They just wanton violence. It's absolutely unbelievable. These guys, like they were sent straight from hell to plague us. I ended the article by saying basically that I'd be willing to bet that there's several thousand, if not tens of thousands, of military vets that would be more than happy to go over there, wipe these sons of guns off the face of the planet, and rescue these poor women. I just, regardless of age, regardless of rank, regardless of anything, I frankly, I wish I had the wherewithal to develop a Blackwater type mercenary private force and just go over there and just do this thing, because something needs to happen, and shame on us, frankly, if we don't do something for these poor people. It's one thing to fight ISIS or something because they've attacked an ally of ours, or they're taking land or property or something. Okay, fine. Let somebody else do the grunt work on that. But like I said, this is beyond national interest. And frankly, shame on us if something doesn't get done. But I know, unfortunately, with this danged administration that's in bed with every two-bit dictator, Iran, now Cuba, probably Venezuela, who knows who else. I don't think anything will be done, and shame on us for allowing this to happen. That's about all I got to say about that. I'll be right back. I got to take a breather here, because this is just something that's just set me off from the second I heard it, and it just keeps going and going and going, and I got to get my head straight. So I'll be right back.
You're listening to the Common Constitutionalist. Let the truth be known.
All right, I'm back. Take a breath. Count to 10. Here we go. OneNewsNow.com had an article, I think it might have been from yesterday, regarding it was entitled "If no Jeb, no Hillary, then who?" It starts out as, contrary to what is often referred to as conventional wisdom, quote unquote, some political observers believe that neither Jeb Bush nor Hillary Clinton will represent the respective political parties in the 2016 presidential sweepstakes. Well, I don't want to toot my own horn or anything, but who's been saying this for months and months? Me and several other conservatives that, well, I don't know if I'm in the know or not, but I guess I'm plugged in enough to know that I didn't think that almost from day one that Hillary was going to be the nominee, because frankly everybody hates Hillary, even on the Democrat side. Sure, you get these Nimrod women on interviews and whatnot, man on the street type of deal, that say, oh yeah, we're Hillary because, we're for Hillary because she's a woman. Well, who gives a rat's patoot whether she's a woman or not? And it comes right down to it, she's a woman that that nobody likes. So she's not going to be the nominee. And you can see, I think, in my opinion, the rats are leaving the sinking ship here, and the more crap that comes out about the Clintons, the more people are just going to abandon ship, and they're desperately looking for a replacement as we speak. And now the pundit class, I think, is probably starting to catch on to the fact that I don't think, well, I haven't thought for a while, But I think that they're starting to catch up to the fact, because Jeb is losing ground, that he's not going to be the nominee either, and that things, in fact, are different this time around. And people are sick and tired of the status quo. They want to get out the Bushes. They want to get rid of the Clintons, or they certainly want to get rid of Hillary. That's for darn sure. And according to conservative political analyst Tom Pauken at Real Clear Politics, he's the former chairman of the Republican Party of Texas. He thinks that Jeb Bush is turning out to be a much weaker presidential candidate than people thought. Well, we conservatives, real conservatives, always knew Jeb Bush was a weak-kneed candidate. He's a Mitt Romney. He's a John McCain. He's cut from the same establishment cloth as the rest of these fools. And if he were to be the nominee, I've already said that I'm not voting for him. Period. I'll go third party. If there's no third party, I'm just not going to vote this time around. I will not vote for Jeb Bush, period, ever. Or any, Christie or Huckabee or any of these progressives, Trump, whoever. Trump's not going to run. He does this every time. He goes up. He was in New Hampshire, and he makes great speeches, and he's got this China fixation where he thinks China's kicking our butt, and they have been for years, granted, but they've got their own set of problems. But this Pauken guy also said that for a while, people thought it was almost a given that Jeb Bush is going to be the nominee, and now he's not even the clear front runner. Well, I don't know. I don't think I had a premonition. I just figured that, we're tired of this. We're tired of the status quo. We need a conservative. We want a conservative, somebody who will espouse the things that they say what we think, basically. That's what Limbaugh has always said. It's not his ideas. He's just vocalizing what we already think and know. That's why he's so popular. And the only reason why Jeb Bush was the presumed nominee, or the presumed favorite, was because the inside the Beltway political class, that was their guy. They don't get outside the Beltway long enough to even get the pulse of the general public, of the people in flyover country. That's us, I guess. And now Scott Walker's come out. Marco Rubio is, I guess, first in the polls, at least in Florida and other places. Cruz is doing strong. I don't know about the rest of them, but that's Rand Paul's doing okay. And I think that any of them could beat Jeb Bush at this point. Now, Pauken did say that governors are preferred candidates when it comes to presidents. They always seem to lead. They always seem to win over senators and congressmen, whoever runs, because they have the executive experience, and they've been executives of states. Okay, that makes perfect sense. So that's why this Pauken guy thinks that Scott Walker may waltz right into this thing. Hard to say, but I don't know. He was on Beck a week or so ago, and I was uncertain about him, but I'll tell you, he sounded pretty dang solid to me. He spoke with conviction. He didn't hem and haw. He didn't try to backpedal or obfuscate at all. It was a really good interview. Good hard questions, which I would expect of Beck and the guys. And he held up really well. And I'm sure he'll come back on. He'll be invited back on, and he'll come back on. One of the telltale signs of people that I wouldn't vote for is, sure, they'll go in and talk to Hannity on Fox, or they'll even maybe talk to Limbaugh. But if they don't go, and they won't talk to Beck, because Beck doesn't care. He owns his own network. He's not beholden to anybody. He doesn't have any partners or whatever. It's him and him alone, and he's responsible for the content and the fallout of any content. So he has the luxury of being the real maverick, not some maverick like the John McCain type maverick, but a real maverick. And candidates like Chris Christie will never, ever, ever, Jeb Bush will never, ever, ever go on Glenn Beck's program, because there are no rules. They're not allowed to set ground rules. They're not allowed to say, we're not going to talk about this, don't ask me about that, and whatnot, and expect Beck and the guys to just fall into line. I think they are allowed to do that with Fox News. They set the rules, they set the playing field, and then you can ask them certain questions, and beyond that, that's it. It's a safe interview, or relatively safe. It's not that Beck is looking for gotcha questions or anything else. He's just trying to get to the root of where everybody actually really stands. That's why earlier on I was a little bit afraid of Scott Walker, because they had been reaching out to Walker for months, or well, at least weeks and weeks, and they'd contact Walker and he just wouldn't come on for whatever reason. I guess he must have had some good reasons, because he finally did come on, and it was a gangbuster interview. He was really good. And so I'm firmly, there's nobody that's going to beat Ted Cruz in my book, as far as who I want to be the nominee. He may not become the nominee, but he should become the nominee. And if somebody, some squishy middle-of-the-roader becomes the nominee, I would hope that maybe we could draft him into a third party. And I think that if it's some radicalized liberal leftist on the Democrat side, who it's likely to be, who else are they going to pick? They're going to pick some middle-of-the-road Democrat? No chance in heck. They would never get out of the gate in the primary. It's got to be a radical leftist. They may need to be card-carrying communists in order to get through the Democrat primary. At this point, they're so far left, it's not even funny. But this Pauken guy also suggested that John Kasich, the governor of Ohio, might get in, and that he might be a strong candidate. Well, I'm sorry to say, but Kasich is just another establishment Republican that occasionally says some conservative things, but he is establishment through and through. Do not be fooled by this guy. And Pauken also says that he doesn't see how Bush could move forward if he ends up losing if he doesn't win the New Hampshire primary. In years gone by, I would say that Bush had no shot at being a squishy middle-of-the-roader progressive Republican, that he had no shot of winning New Hampshire. But I hate to say that New Hampshire, since I've lived up here, has gone from red to deep purple, bordering on blue, probably blue in disguise. The two Republicans that we do have representing this state are both establishment hacks. Kelly Ayotte is the worst. She's worse than Judd Gregg was, and I didn't think that that was possible. Judd Gregg was the establishment's establishment. I think, if I'm not mistaken, didn't he work for Obama, or didn't Obama offered him a job? How in the heck could a lefty radical like Obama offer anybody a job who is truly conservative? Would never happen. That's pretty telling. And frankly, Kelly Ayotte has been worse than Judd Gregg. She was one of the establishment hacks that put Loretta Lynch over the top, and has been confirmed to replace Eric Holder. And she'll, mark my words, folks, she's going to be worse than Holder. I don't know if that's possible, but if it is, she'll do it. But at any rate, I frankly could see Jeb Bush getting loaded up with votes and stealing the New Hampshire primary. I could see it, no problem. This state is so screwed up at this point. It's so full of Democrats. It's so full of establishment squishes. I could see it in a heartbeat. I hope it's not the case. I hope the conservatives like me come out and vote in droves and drive them all away. Never know. Don't know. But I do agree with Pauken that if Bush doesn't show well in the New Hampshire primary, assuming, frankly, if he gets that far, he won't survive beyond that. That's it. People will bail on him. He won't have any momentum, and people will just bail on him. Now, as far as Hillary's concerned, I don't know who the heck's going to replace Hillary, but I know she's going to be replaced. There is no way on this earth that Hillary's going to be the nominee, and I think she's being sabotaged I don't know whether it's the Obama people who are sabotaging her. I think, frankly, it might be somebody like Valerie Jarrett that's feeding the press and feeding conservatives or whoever in Congress all this info about the Clintons. Somebody's doing something. I don't know. But that the bottom line is that Hillary is a radical. She's the originator of Common Core. She's the originator of Obamacare. She's radical through and through, but somehow she's got this moniker of being the reasonable the reasonable Democrat. I have no idea how, but that's what she's been made out to be. So at any rate, that's about all I've got. Thanks for sticking with me, particularly on this ISIS thing. I tried to hold it together as much as I can. I'm not going to be talking about that again for a little while because I just can't stand it. And as far as the primary is concerned, it's going to get very interesting very soon, and I just hope we have the stamina to stay with this, because this is going to be a long primary season, man. It already feels like it's in full swing, and we got a long way to go. So, till next time, this is the Common Constitutionalist signing off, and y'all have a great day.